Imagine for a second that your life, from the very moment you take your first breath to the moment you take your last, isn't just a straight line.
Right.
Because we are so conditioned to think of life and death as just point A to point B. You start here, you end there, and, well, that is it.
That's the standard view, yeah.
But what if the end is, like, literally just the beginning of something else? That is the core question driving our deep dive today.
It's a huge concept to tackle.
It really is. We are exploring a radically different framework of reality today, laid out in translated excerpts from the writings of Sweffing, translated by Kinyu and edited by Peter.
Yeah, and it's a worldview that really blends ancient philosophy, some startling historical anomalies, near-death experiences, and even a fascinating touch of speculative biology.
Exactly.
And, regardless of your personal, religious, or philosophical beliefs, this material really forces a reconsideration of the fundamental nature of consciousness.
Oh, for sure.
Our goal today isn't to, prove or disprove this framework. We're just here to unpack the architecture of these ideas.
Yeah.
Because the way this framework attempts to connect your mundane, everyday actions with a massive, mystical, cosmic order is just incredibly thought-provoking.
So before we look at what might happen after the physical body shuts down, we first really have to understand the present moment relationship between life and death.
Right, the baseline.
Yeah, the baseline. And the framework uses the visual of a Möbius strip for this.
Which is such a brilliant visual here. Because if you trace a Möbius strip with your finger, you realize life and death aren't, sitting on opposite ends of a spectrum.
They share the exact same surface.
Exactly. Life is death and death is life.
There's actually this quote included from the Yellow Emperor's book of the Hidden Talisman that says, life is the root of death and death is the root of life.
Which sounds highly poetic, I know.
Right, it does. But it gets grounded in something incredibly visceral, which is a baby crying.
Yeah, the text asks why babies cry the absolute second they are born.
And the blunt answer provided is that they cry because, quote, life is bitter.
The implication there is that the crying isn't just a physiological reaction to cold air or bright lights in a delivery room.
Right, like doctors usually say.
Right. It's presented as an innate, subconscious recognition of the sheer struggle of physical existence. The soul, entering this dense physical body, immediately recognizes the friction of the world it's entering.
Wow.
Which pulls us right into the core mechanism driving all of this, which is the concept of instinct.
Okay, let's unpack this, because there is this really fantastic analogy of a chick inside an egg.
Oh, I love this part.
Right, it's been incubating for 21 days, and suddenly it just starts pecking at the shell. That chick has no idea how thick the shell is.
Not at all.
It has no conceptual understanding of a vast world waiting on the outside. But it pecks anyway, driven by pure instinct.
Just compelled to do it?
Yeah. And reading this, I realized, we are all essentially that little chick. We have this biological drive to keep pecking at the mysteries of the universe, like reading these sources right now.
Exactly.
We don't know what's outside our own shell of reality, but we are absolutely compelled to look.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at how instinct is redefined in this context.
Yes.
Usually we think of instinct as just an evolutionary survival mechanism, right? Like a biological reflex developed over millions of years.
Sure, Darwinism, basically.
Exactly. But here, instinct is defined as an innate performance that living beings execute without learning. Bees making honey, migratory birds navigating by the stars.
Or a newborn baby knowing how to nurse.
Yes. The crucial philosophical leap the author makes is claiming these aren't just biological reflexes. They are actual programs embedded in the structure of reality by a higher life.
Right, because if an instinct is embedded, well, it implies there is an embedder. It suggests an overarching intelligent system of life, with a capital L, that stretches far beyond a single biological lifespan.
It completely reframes biology as software. And if instincts are embedded programs playing out in a continuous loop, it suggests we are participating in a system that is vast, ancient, and deeply interconnected.
So if our consciousness is essentially software running on this continuous loop, that naturally begs the question, does the data from previous cycles ever leak into the current operating system?
And that takes us directly into reincarnation.
But not as some distant religious concept, right?
No, not at all. It treats it as an observable phenomenon where past life data literally intrudes on the present. The Shanti Devi case from India in 1926 is a prime example they used to illustrate this leakage.
I was hoping we'd talk about her.
Yeah, so at 7 years old, this girl living in Delhi suddenly tells her mother she used to live in Mathura.
Which is a whole different city.
Exactly. She said her name was Luki and that she had a husband and 3 children living there.
And then, when she was 9, a guest visited their house, and Shanti immediately recognized him as her former husband's cousin.
Which is just wild. And this prompted an official investigation. They took her to Mathura, a city she had never visited in her current life,
Right.
and she immediately started speaking the local dialect. She recognized her previous father-in-law, her past life children, and even described her old school with absolute accuracy.
It's framed not as childhood imagination, but as a literal data retrieval from a previous save file.
Yeah, like accessing an old hard drive.
And then there's the case of Gaspiel and Yaki, which, pushes the mechanism even further. Gaspiel was a young man in India who died, and on the exact same day, 35 kilometers away, a man named Yaki also died.
And then things get really strange.
Very strange. Suddenly, Gaspiel wakes up inside his own coffin.
Wow.
Right. But when he's pulled out, he possesses the memories and knowledge of Yaki. He knew intimate details of a village he had never even visited.
Waking up in your own coffin with a stranger's memories? I mean, that is profoundly unsettling.
It really is. It's presented almost like consciousness hot-swapping hardware in real time.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
But this idea of tracking consciousness from one vessel to another isn't just about spontaneous anomalies either. Look at the Tibetan Buddhist tradition.
Oh, specifically the rigorous search for the reincarnated Panchen Lama.
Exactly. The search for the ninth Panchen Lama isn't just a religious ritual in this framework. It is a procedural test designed to identify a specific embedded instinct signature.
Right.
It wasn't just about a boy named Wendu Gongbao Kaidan having a good memory. He had to prove his identity by picking out the specific utensils used by the previous Panchen Lama from a massive pile of identical objects.
Because the mechanism here is resonance.
Yes, resonance.
Yeah.
The boy is drawn to the objects because his embedded life energy vibrates at the exact same frequency as the objects used in his past life. He even recognized a singer, Gajan Pasang, from a massive crowd.
Someone the boy had never met in this life.
Never. But the previous Lama knew him well.
And the final selection process is so intense, they involve taking the names of the final candidates, wrapping them in Tibetan dough balls called sampa, and placing them in a solid gold bottle.
Yeah, the randomization part.
Right. After prayers, they shake the bottle until one single dough ball jumps out. They opened it, and it was Wendu Gongbao Kaidan's name. It is fascinating how randomization is used to prove the non-randomness of the soul's trajectory.
It really is.
But, you don't have to be a holy figure to experience this.
No, not at all.
Here's where it gets really interesting. What if those mundane quirks you have are actually hangovers from a past life?
Right, the everyday stuff.
Yeah. We all experience sudden, hazy senses of déjà vu when visiting a new place. And it's incredibly easy to write that off as a neurological glitch, right? Like a momentary misfire in the brain's memory filing system.
Sure, that's what science usually tells us.
But the author's asking you to consider, what if that glitch is a genuine echo of a past human existence bleeding through the veil?
And what's fascinating here is that the categorizations go far beyond just simple déjà vu. The text asserts that if your past life was an animal, you might not experience spatial déjà vu, but you will have an unexplained, intense love or a terrifying phobia of specific animals.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's categorized as a residual emotional frequency left over from that specific biological carrier.
Wow. And what if you constantly feel alienated or have this deep instinctual revulsion toward human selfishness?
Well, according to the text, you might have been a celestial being in a past life, existing in what the writings call the 1,000-year or 10,000-year worlds.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Or, if you naturally hate meat and feel an innate affinity for Buddhism, that is considered an emotional signature of a reincarnated soul from the Elysium world.
I need to ask, are those physical planets?
Good question. To clarify those terms, these worlds, the Elysium, the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, aren't necessarily physical planets in this cosmology. They function as higher dimensions of pure consciousness or spiritual purity, distinct from our dense earthly realm.
Ah, okay, that makes sense.
By connecting these grand cosmic dimensions to the very common feeling of simply not belonging in this world, the framework makes the supernatural feel intensely personal. It provides a metaphysical explanation for everyday psychological alienation.
I love that. So, if our past life save files are occasionally leaking into our current reality, there has to be a mechanism for how that data transfers after the body shuts down, right?
Naturally.
Like, how does consciousness survive the actual gap between existences?
That gap is explored heavily through near-death experiences, or NDEs. From a purely materialist scientific standpoint, NDEs are often categorized as just the dying brain releasing a flood of chemicals.
Like DMT.
Exactly, DMT,
Yeah.
creating powerful, comforting hallucinations as the biological system shut down. But in this framework, drawing on databases like the International Association for Near-Death Studies, these aren't chemical hallucinations at all.
What are they then?
They are literal transition states. It's the consciousness entering the corridor between carriers.
The sources highlight four distinct transition memories, actually. In one, a person describes passing through a joyful darkness into brilliant, happy sunlight.
Which sounds amazing.
It does. Another is pushed into a peaceful black hole that suddenly bursts into a radiant red dawn.
But the transitions aren't universally peaceful, which is important to note because it implies a sorting mechanism. A third account describes a terrifying nightmare.
Oh, the tornado one.
Yeah, a black tornado where countless ghosts try to pull the person away before a sudden force yanks them back to the living world.
Terrifying.
And the fourth is the classic out-of-body experience. Floating above doctors operating on your own body, feeling totally detached, knowing there's a beautiful place far away you're supposed to go.
These accounts establish a foundational rule for this universe. Only two things are eternal: energy and life. Everything else is just temporary hardware.
To carriers.
Exactly. Death is just swapping carriers. The example given is a dog. When a dog dies, its biological carrier ends, but its life energy might be reborn as a human. The dog must die so the human can be born. You cannot step into two rivers at the same time.
Which brings us to the mechanics of how your next carrier is actually chosen. It's not a random lottery, and it doesn't happen instantaneously upon death.
Right.
The transformation is gradual, even if the result appears sudden. Think of a tadpole becoming a frog.
Okay.
It's a slow, invisible biological metamorphosis.
Yeah.
The spiritual metamorphosis works exactly the same way, quietly compiling in the background of your current life.
Right, which introduces this concept of a cosmic life bank. So the author is basically describing a cosmic credit score.
Yes, it's a perfect analogy.
Every action you take is either a deposit or withdrawal. Max out your credit cards on bad behavior, and your next life's interest rate is going to be terrible.
You might come back as a pig.
Literally. If you constantly act with malice, if you squander resources and waste your potential, you are overspending and leaving a deficit in your life bank. You come back in a much lower density carrier, like a beast.
And what's fascinating here is how this concept reframes aging entirely. Because to achieve a higher state of being, like reaching the 1,000-year world or becoming a Buddha, you must completely empty yourself of attachments. Wealth, fame, status, arguments.
It requires achieving, what did they call it? Perfect humanity.
Yes. And to understand how this compiles over time, the author uses this brilliant daily photo analogy.
Oh, I loved this part. The daily photo analogy completely shifted my perspective.
Right. Because if you take a photo of yourself every single day from birth to death, comparing yesterday's photo to today's Froob reveals absolutely zero physical difference.
You look identical.
The aging is completely invisible, but compare a photo from today to one from a year ago, and the change is undeniable.
Oh, totally.
This illustrates the idea that in life, there is death.
Yeah.
Every single day you are incrementally dying, but simultaneously through those daily moral choices and actions, you're incrementally building the structural foundation for your next existence. In death, there is life.
It creates this massive tension between biological determinism and free will. You know, your past actions might determine your starting line, your phobias, your innate talents.
Yeah.
But your daily choices right now are actively rewriting the code for your next life.
That's the beauty of it.
So if our daily actions are secretly compiling to determine our next life, is there any physical proof of this metaphysical destination right at the finish line?
The author claims there is.
A final tally.
Yes. And this is arguably the boldest claim in the entire cosmology. It states that at the exact moment of death, the structure of the neurons in the brain's central nervous system physically changes.
Wait, physically changes?
Yes. And more importantly, those different structural formations possess different observable colors.
So what does this all mean? The concept here is a hypothetical color scanner, right?
Exactly.
The idea is that if we had the medical technology to open the skull and scan the brain at the precise moment of death, the colors illuminating the neurons would reveal the exact dimensional destination of that person's soul.
And this raises an important question about why colors are the metric here. In many metaphysical frameworks, color corresponds to the frequency of energy. Higher vibrations emit different spectrums of light than dense, low vibrations.
Oh, right, like an aura.
Basically. Here, the framework provides a highly specific afterlife map based on that principle. If the scanner shows highly colorful neurons, the soul has achieved the highest frequency, moving to the 10,000-year world.
Okay.
Purple indicates the Elysium world.
Got it. And red, green, or blue means the 1,000-year world.
Correct. And if the neurons flash white, you are coming right back here to the physical plane to be reborn as a human.
What about the lower worlds?
A faint, dark color indicates a descent into the animal world. And if the brain goes pitch black, well, you are heading to the lowest density. The netherworld, the frozen layer, or the inflaming layer.
I mean, I have to admit, this sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. Reading the soul's destination like a mood ring on the brain.
It is a lot to take in.
It's a huge leap from philosophical Möbius strips to literal, color-coded neurons.
It is a deliberate attempt to bridge neurobiology and mysticism, though, by assigning the soul a physical biological marker in the exact moment of exit. The author attempts to make the metaphysical measurable.
Grounding a purely spiritual transition into the physical anatomy of the human body.
Exactly. There's a philosopher, Seth, who is quoted perfectly summing this up. Death is not the end of life.
Regardless of whether you view that scanner as a literal future technology or just a profound metaphor, it has been a wild journey. I mean, we started with crying babies and pecking chicks.
We really covered some ground.
We really did. We looked at historical reincarnation mysteries, explored the transition space of near-death experiences, learned how our daily choices act as a cosmic bank account, and ended up peering at neon-colored neurons at the moment of death.
It is a cohesive, massive system, and it serves as a deeply profound lens. It forces you to view your daily choices, your habits, your attachments, your momentary reactions, not just in the isolated context of today, but as actual threads wedging your connection to a much wider, older universe.
That is the core of it, really.
The underlying premise is that your next life is dictated by how you spend your current life's energy. But even if we strip away every single supernatural element from this discussion.
Right, just looking at it practically.
Exactly. If every thought, habit, and action you take today is gradually, invisibly building the person you will be tomorrow, aren't you already, in a very real sense, giving birth to your own afterlife right now?
A perfect, thought-provoking idea to end on. Thank you so much for bringing such incredibly mind-bending source material to the table for us to explore today.
My pleasure.
So the next time you think about your life, remember, maybe it isn't a straight line from point A to point B. Maybe, just maybe, it's a loop. Keep pecking at that shell, keep exploring, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.